They all died here. Major Dade, Captains Gardner, Frazier, Lieutenants Mudge, Passenger, Henderson, Keys, and all the rest. All except for those few of us that lived through it. Thomas, Sprague, Pacheco, and me. Yeah, me, Ransom Clark. Company C, 2nd United States Artillery. I lived through it. I lived through it for 5 more years with the pain of my wounds. They pensioned me off. I went back to New York and tried to live on that pension. And then I started talking about this battle. I did lectures on it. I may have embellished it a bit, but it was real. And then the pain of my wounds stopped. But I'm still haunted. Our journey here began
I'll call you back.
December 23rd, 1835. Just 60 miles south of this place, in Fort Brooke on Tampa Bay. They formed us up, 100 officers and 100 men and 8 officers. Formed up to march out from Fort King to Fort King, 100 miles north from Fort Brooke. We wanted for twice that number. We heard reinforcements were coming, but they hadn't arrived, and Fort King had to be relieved. We had to march on that day, because orders were orders. We got out on the march, coming up the Fort King Road. The first day, second day, went just fine. We had 4 rivers to cross. We had the Big Hillsborough, Little Hillsborough, the Big and Little Withlacoochees. It was low area, there was swamps, there was a lot of underbrush. We expected the Indians to attack us there. The Seminoles had told us not to try to march through their heart of their territory, that they would attack. But they weren't there. The villages we passed were deserted. A slave, Pacheco, that the major had hired as a guide and interpreter, saw plenty of fresh signs, but they didn't attack. They waited. We came on up for 5 days and we marched. We camped. The major had been cautious. We camped in fortified camps with logs up and fires to see by, and kept pickets out. Just 5 miles south of here, we made our last camp at a little pond. Next day we got up on the march. Started coming up in the high country. Now the major had rear guard, had a forward guard out front. He had flankers out beside the column. Now they had struggled through 60 miles of underbrush. They had guarded us when we had to cross the wagon, cross the cannon, across the rivers. But the Indians hadn't attacked. But we got up in this open country, pines and low palmettos and grass. And the major had pulled in the flankers as we come up this road. We didn't know it then, but the Seminoles had been waiting. They would have attacked us. But this Indian Osceola, he had a grudge against the Indian agent up there in Fort King, and he had been waiting with part of the Seminole warriors to kill General Thompson. And he did. And he was coming back, and they were waiting on him. But it took him so long he wasn't here. So on that last day, when we started walking up the road, the major had taken and pulled the flankers They weren't out there because we could see. He still had the advance. He still had the rear. But he had brought them in. And we were heading up the road, that 5 miles to this place.